Hello and welcome to Huskers HQ Overtime, presented by Tom Dinsdale. I'm Jack Sheard. With me, as always, when we talk about volleyball, Bob Hamer, Husker reporter here. Now, Bob, it's tournament time.
Yes, it is, Jack. A lot of excitement going around the country with first and second round matches last week. Now they're going into the regional play. A lot of good teams still left, and well, we know Nebraska is going to Seattle to face Michigan on Friday night, and that'll be a challenge in itself.
Now, before we get to Michigan, let's look back at the Liberty and the Alabama-Birmingham matches. Pretty solid performances for Nebraska.
On Friday night, they beat Liberty 3-1. They didn't play great that night, but they'd only played one match in 13 days, and Coach Cook felt they were a little rusty. They came back on Saturday night and just blew away Alabama. Birmingham played extremely well, so the rust was gone and they were ready to go.
Now, some of the players are a little banged up right now. Corey Cooper's out, and you mentioned earlier Brooke
Delano is out also.
So who's stepping up into these roles?
Well, Jordan Wilberger has taken Cooper's spot in the middle blocker spot, and she's done a good job. She's very athletic, not as experienced, obviously, as Corey Cooper, who was a junior. Wilberger is a redshirt freshman from Scottsbluff. She's probably more athletic than Cooper. Great blocker, but she just doesn't have the same experience or the same offensive ability. But they're going to need her to step up and really play well in the regional to have a chance out there. Delano, they have nobody to take her spot. She's kind of a utility player. Now they don't have one. They're really thin on the bench.
What do you see as a strength for them right now? If they're missing these players, what is the strength Nebraska's got for them right now?
Their strength would probably be, well, their chemistry, their outside hitters. Maybe their chemistry might be the biggest strength. They played well together all year long. That's something they maybe didn't have the chemistry last year. They had great players last year, more talent than they do this year, but they've really put things together on that front in 2008.
So now they're going to play Michigan in Seattle, right? Seattle?
Right.
And how good is Michigan?
Michigan must be pretty good. Cook says they've got a great setter and a great libero, and that's a good place to start. Really good outside hitter and a very strong middle, so they're kind of well balanced. They played in a very tough Big Ten conference, which included unbeaten Penn State, and so they've been tested. The Big Ten still has 4 teams in the final 16, so it's going to be a test for the Huskers to play Michigan.
And let's just say they get past Michigan, because, well, that's what we do here at the Huskers HQ Overtime. They play either Washington, which is where this is at, or Utah, which the team has a small tie to.
Yes, that's true. Utah, Nebraska setter Sydney Anderson played at Utah, in 2006. Took a year off from college volleyball. Now she's with Nebraska. So if that should happen, you probably expect Washington to win that match. But Coach Cook says that's a very interesting match. And I'm sure they would much rather play Utah in Seattle than play Washington in Seattle, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. You know, Nebraska, as you know, Bob, has done pretty good playing at home, especially in tournament time. They probably understand what Washington's got going in their favor right now. Staying there in Seattle, playing in their home place. Tough thing to climb there for Nebraska.
Definitely, it's an advantage. But the last 2 years, Nebraska had to go on the road for regionals, but the host team got beat both times. Last year it was Wisconsin that didn't get to the regional. Year before, they went to Florida, and Florida got beat in the regional semifinals. And then Nebraska had to play Minnesota that year, and that was tough enough. It took them 5 games to win that. But yeah, you'd rather not have to play on the opposing team's home court, but that's the way it goes. Unless you get a regional, Nebraska has the Final Four at the Quest Center, so they weren't going to get a regional this year.
Yeah. Now we got Nebraska. We've talked about their bracket. Other teams to watch out for, usual suspects.
Texas is still in there. Iowa State from the Big 12.
Right.
But Iowa State and Texas are in the same regional, so at Austin. So you think Texas is probably going to come out of there. Penn State's had a great year, as I mentioned earlier. They're still unbeaten and have not even dropped a single set this season.
Wow.
And that would set up, if Nebraska would make it to the Final Four, that's who they'd play in the semifinals, would be Penn State.
Okay.
Which is
not even in the finals.
No, they meet in the semifinals, which is interesting because Nebraska has a setter on their team, Jessica Yans, who played at Penn State last year, transferred to Nebraska, but Coach Russ Rose from Penn State wouldn't give her a release, so she couldn't play this year. So there's maybe a little bad blood. The schools aren't real happy right now with each other. When you look at it, you can understand Penn State's point because Russ Rose probably didn't want to play against the Nebraska team with his former setter playing for him.
Understandable. Unlike Utah, who might have to go up against.
Yeah, Utah didn't have any. Yeah, and down the road, maybe that'll happen. But it would set up an interesting situation if that comes to be.
So, who would the Texas regional winner play in the Final Four?
The Texas regional would play the winner from the Fort Collins, Colorado regional, which Stanford would probably be the favorite there because Colorado State's already been beaten, so they're not in it. Stanford rated number 2. They're definitely a favorite to come out of there.
So Nebraska is the 4th seed right now.
They're the 4th seed.
And probably have the toughest road to get to Omaha.
Which, that's if you're the 4th seed, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, they're going to try and give them easier roads. So that's to be expected.
It's kind of hard to say that from Lincoln to Omaha is that hard, but it's really through Washington, which will be a tough weekend ahead.
No doubt about it.
All right. Well, do you want to make a prediction, or are you up for that?
Well, I'll make it. I've been thinking all along that Nebraska probably wouldn't win at Washington, but something just tells me that somehow they're gonna find a way to get it done, and so that's my prediction that they're gonna have to play very well to make it. But I think they can get through it.
I do too. I think Nebraska will sweep their way through. No problems. They'll be in Omaha, and look forward to that Penn State matchup. But we'll have to wait and see for sure. Right?
Yes, we will.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Bob. And we'll see you again next week as we talk more about Husker sports on Huskers HQ Overtime, presented by Tom Dinsdale.